Thank you, Sergio. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. To everyone who is listening all around the world, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is my pleasure to be your moderator for this session on the state of legal technology in Asia as well as in Oceania, organized as part of the Global Legal Technology Hub Day or GLTH Day for short. Just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Josh, and I'm the chairperson of the Asia Pacific Legal Innovation and Technology Association, or ALITA for short. ALITA is the premier legal technology coordination platform and legal tech organization in the Asia Pacific. It's modeled after the likes of the International Legal Tech Association and the European Legal Tech Association, and our aim is to grow opportunities for our members in this part of the world in relation to legal tech and help shape policies as well as the landscape in the region to create a more enabling legal technology environment for the legal industry here. Now, today I am joined by three very esteemed panelists who will be sharing their perspectives on the state of legal innovation in their regions. So these are Jody Baker, Naray Lee, and Namit Oberoi. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to our panelists to give a brief introduction of themselves. We'll start first with Jody, and then Naray, and then move on to Namit. So Jody, please go ahead.
Many thanks, Josh, and it's lovely to be here and be part of this fabulous event. So my name is Jody Baker, and I am the founder and CEO of an organisation called Zakia, which is an in-house legal technology, matter management, workflow, data analytics. And I'm also very passionate about legal technology and have been involved with various legal technology associations and excited to be talking about some of the trends coming out of the industry in the last couple of years.
Thank you very much, Jody. That's great. And Naray, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, thank you very much for your invitation to this panel discussion. My name is Naray, and I'm based in Seoul, Korea. And I'm a lawyer working for Blease Law Office, and I advise startups and venture capital firms on legal issues. And having worked as in-house counsel for quite a bit of time, I got interested in legal tech from the point of view that legal technology can be an efficient tool to provide legal services to internal or external clients. From that end, I work as a member of the steering committee of ALITA with Josh, and I'm very happy to share my views on the APAC legal technology industry with you. Thank you.
Awesome, Naray. Great to have you as well. And last but not least, of course, we have Namit. So Namit, please take it away.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you for having me, inviting me to the panel, Josh, and the organizers. My name is Namit Oberoi. My work I like to describe is twofold. I work on one side as a consultant, and on the other side, my work is research focused. I run Indian Legal Tech, which covers the legal technology, and yeah, I'm excited to speak more about what's coming out of India, especially after COVID.
Thank you so much, Namit. So if you're listening in right now, you'll see that we have a great extensive range of experience in this panel. So today what we hope to do is to be able to present a broad and strategic bird's eye view of the state of legal technology in Asia and Oceania. We will do so by looking at the following questions. What has changed in the legal technology space between 2020 and 2021? The lessons that will stay on going forward as the world starts to emerge after two crisis-filled years, the most exciting developments in the region, and where the panelists think the region will go from here in the next 3 years. But before we begin, I'd like to set the context by making a few observations from the perspective of the Asia Pacific Legal Innovation and Technology Association. Now, between 2019 and 2020, ALITA conducted 3 studies on the state of legal innovation in the Asia Pacific, which is compiled in the report whose namesake is the SOLIA report, or State of Legal Innovation in the Asia Pacific report. You may find this report on our site at alita.legal. Now, as its name suggests, this report is aimed at providing an overview of legal technology in 12 key jurisdictions across the Asia Pacific. Now, our work on the report revealed three interesting points that we'd like to share with all of you today. First is that legal innovation is a phenomenon in APAC and probably around the world. If we assume legal innovation to be well established in also Europe and the Americas, then with APAC's addition to this, we are in a position to say that the legal innovation movement has become a truly global phenomenon. And even if new legal innovations and technologies have not yet reached every single shore, it is probably safe to say that news of them has. Second, there is a remarkable non-coordinated coincidence in legal innovation because we can see that in spite of the diversity of the region and there being no central authority instructing each country to focus on these things, we have seen that there is a convergence of use cases and technologies in relation to legal technology. The application of these technologies in areas like legal marketplaces, legal research, document review, and online advice, and perhaps more recently, online dispute resolution, is an interesting observation and the reasons for which we will leave you as the listeners to this panel, as well as the readers of the Solar Report, to think about. The third is that APAC's diversity nonetheless does shine through in the balance of legal innovation. Because what I just said earlier should not be taken as saying that legal innovation everywhere in the APAC is the same. The use cases may be similar, but priorities do differ. And these seem to be shaped and influenced by local characteristics unique to each jurisdiction and its legal industry. Nevertheless, I think in the last year or last couple of years, there are some great developments that are happening across the Asia Pacific in the legal innovation industry, especially inspired by the need for remote working and the need for online dispute resolution as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me just highlight three examples for your reference. So for example, mainland China saw a 453% year-on-year increase in cases heard online between 2019 and 2020. And there was a new cloud mediation platform set up in Hangzhou, while question answering robots were installed in the Beijing courts. In Malaysia, there's been a significant push towards online dispute resolution with a new e-payment system for bail and e-appellate system and laws amended to allow e-hearings. And in Singapore as well, right, there are asynchronous dispute resolution processes that were launched and two new research centers that were set up focused on AI as well as computational law. I think this speaks to the energy and the diversity in this region. And so I think now it's a great time to now turn them to the panelists to ask them on their reflections on what changed in the legal technology scene in Asia as well as Oceania between 2020 and 2021. So maybe I'll start first with Jody and then go with Marae and Namit. So if Jody, you're ready, please take it away.
Thanks, Josh. It's certainly been a very interesting couple of years. I think that my big observations around the changes are actually in the people rather than the technologies themselves. So I've seen amongst our clients in particular, or the market that we operate in. So we are very much focused on the in-house market. So in-house corporates are our primary client base. But across many different geographic markets, we've seen a real change in the language being used about technology. So if you think pre-COVID or before COVID hit, we saw a lot of language and fear, if you like, around machines will replace lawyers or software will replace lawyers, or dividing the lawyers into those who are technology literate and those who are not, and thinking about technology often as a specialisation or something that some lawyers were good at and some lawyers weren't, and therefore it was a nice to have rather than a must have. I think that what has happened in the last couple of years that has really shifted the market is that technology is now super normal. It enables work productivity. People have been forced to adopt, and therefore they've been forced to sit as a first-hand witness of just how much improvement in productivity and indeed even just in terms of the quality of the work that can be delivered really is enabled through technology. And I think that because of that, you're seeing a lot more budget available for technology tools than what had happened previously. Obviously, that sits on a case-by-case basis in terms of the economic capabilities or capacity of specific organisations. But there is a must-have element to this that means that budget is now becoming available. So I think that adoption is the really big shift here. People who have been change resistant in the past are suddenly much more open to the idea of change. And we know that the legal industry can be change resistant. So I think that that's probably the biggest shift. It's not a technology shift. I'm sure that others will focus on specific tools and technologies that have really come to the fore. And there, you've mentioned the dispute resolution, for example. But actually, I think that the people and the people issues with technology adoption are probably the biggest shift that I've seen.
Thanks so much, Jody. I think those are great points, especially about the point of lawyers being change resistant. As we can see, when survival comes into the picture, then perhaps we are not as change resistant as we thought we originally were. And with that thought, maybe we'll go on to Nare. Nare, what are your thoughts in the part of the world that you are in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. In Korea, there are increasing number of legal tech platforms and companies operating those platforms, and there are lots of attention from venture capital firms towards those companies. So there has been a successful cases of raising funds of those legal tech companies. And with those increasing attention, there has been a conflict over the legal tech industry between the Korean Bar Association and legal tech companies. And I think it is part of due to the heightened competition in legal services market in Korea, as lawyers feel threatened and resist changes with the adoption of legal technology. So in particular, the controversial case was over a lawyer marketplace platform, which connects lawyers with clients, and they received advertisement fees in return. And some lawyers argue that it is a violation of Attorneys Act, which prohibits the intermediary fees. So in response to this, the Korean Bar Association amended the Attorneys Ethics Code and prohibited lawyers from joining the platform. And eventually, the Ministry of Justice intervened and published a press release saying that the platform is not illegal. So I think this could be a meaningful kind of a case for the legal tech industry, because the Ministry of Justice actually declared that the legal marketplace platform is not illegal. So it gives a positive sign to the market for the promoting legal services market in Korea with technology. So that is a big change in Korea recently.
Thanks so much, Nare. And I would perhaps make a punt that this is a development that would perhaps be mirrored in, around Asia and Oceania as well, which is with the increasing use of technology in the legal profession and the warming up to it, right? In a sense, there will be this new balance being struck where regulators are trying to see, okay, where should the new balance be? And perhaps that might be reflected in upcoming change of regulations as well. So I hope that this is a topic that we will hopefully canvas a little bit more over the course of this panel. But without further ado, let's head over to Namit. Namit, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Josh. In India, I think India is a special case. First, because of the scale, and second, because of the fact that India very much like how it's there's an anecdote. India is often referred to as an elephant because it's slow to move. It's very difficult to move because of the sheer amount of diversity of the people. In my understanding, over if not centuries, but in decades, it's been the most remarkable or important event. And in order to understand that context, I think in April 20 last year, India had close to 16 million cases, and there was no oxygen at the hospitals, and the entire state was more or less run by the civil society on Twitter or WhatsApp or Telegram, and there were apps coming out every day. So this was, I believe, a big change in the consciousness of the people, where agency came, where it didn't exist. We were dependent on the actions taken by the state. And now there was a flurry of innovation in survival mode. So this has happened, and this has caused some small effects, but meaningful effects. For example, lawyers moving from their paper diary to their digital diary. It might seem like a very small effect, but it's quite meaningful because that's a gateway to them doing more and more things online. So that digitization that happened, then all segments, the way they were affected was not equal. Marketplace companies have already more or less been around in India for quite some time. Similarly, practice management, case management have been the sectors where innovators were more common. And I believe probably because lawyers were coming, those were lawyers coming in from their legal background, creating solutions for their peers. But now, for example, the surge that we have seen in ODR, when the court machinery had more or less broken down, uh, that is a segment which has shown a lot of promise. It's been embraced by the courts. It has been implemented. Artificial intelligence based systems have now been implemented in high courts, in the Supreme Court of India. So in the last 2 years, and especially the last year, the kind of events that we are seeing, I feel they carry a lot of meaning. There's also a lot of activity with respect to foreign legal technology companies' interest in coming in India. So we are seeing a lot of entry from more global companies.
I think that is, great observations that you've made there. And I think I just want to touch on 2 points. The first is that you mentioned that there is some, I think you basically said that there will be major changes going forward, right? Because of the change in perspective as brought about by this whole COVID-19 pandemic and the need to, in a sense, use technology to supplant the fact that the state administration and the processes that we used to rely on have broken down, and what are the butterfly effects that it will create going forward, right? So I think it will be interesting to, if you could share your observations in one of the questions later, which is where do you think this revolution, in a sense, will take us, let's say, within the next 1 to 3 years. So, but with that, I think I would like to reverse the order, and now we will start with Namit first to take on the second question, which is, what do you think are the lessons that will remain in your jurisdiction or community after the world exits from this last two pandemic-led crisis years? So, Namit, if you could kick us off this time.
There are a couple of observations which stand out. Like one is that this was the first time that we have more or less not worked in silos. So it's shown how important it is to get buy-in from multiple people, from different kinds of stakeholders, because when we were in survival mode, the way we came out of the crisis, I'm not talking just about legal industry, but it has definitely had an impact, was by collaborating, was through community. So with so that's I think the larger lesson that moving forward there needs to be more of knitting in the Indian ecosystem. There are definitely innovators or developers, talent developers that come out of India. The market is massive. But so far, the problem that's been faced is more or less disintegration and lack of organization of the industry. So COVID has accelerated that. Like it was a remark I think noted in the report that you had cited, that COVID should not get all the credit for the innovation. So again, I'm not giving COVID the credit for the innovation, but it definitely uh, tied a lot of the pieces together, right? So I think that's definitely, in my opinion, the biggest observation.
Thank you, Namit. And I do want to echo that because what I've been, thinking as well is that COVID-19 may be an instigator, it might be a spark, but ultimately the changes that we've all made to society are very, very human, right? So despite the fact that there is the sense of a lack of control or loss of control as a result of COVID-19, I think the converse is actually true, which is that it is a great opportunity for human actors to finally take control and say, this is the change we want to see, and this is a chance for us to take it forward. So with that, maybe we'll move now back to Naray. What do you think are the lessons that you think your region will take away after these 2 years?
Over the last 2 years, I believe the critical lessons would be that we learned that we lawyers have to be creative about the ways that we provide services to our clients and resolving disputes. I think before the pandemic, lawyers had scarcely questioned better or different ways to provide legal services to clients. And we actually used to accept the current system as given and did our best to adopt ourselves into the existing system. But due to the COVID, due to the circumstantial reasons, we have to think about different ways of providing services to clients and have to find another interface to communicate with our clients. So even though pandemic was very, even though there were lots of bad influences of pandemic, it at least opened us an opportunity to think about different ways and discuss openly about these issues. And I think the increasing number of legal tech firms in Korea, in APAC region, reflects this kind of this kind of journey to find different ways of providing legal services.
Thanks so much, Nori. And last but not least, of course, Jody, how about you?
And so one lesson that I should have learnt is that the mute button should be pressed before you have to speak. So Josh, for me, there are two key lessons that I think have come out of COVID. And again, putting the in-house lens and thinking about our client base. What we've seen across our is that the value or the recognition of the value that a legal department brings to an organisation has definitely improved. So when a crisis hits, the legal department is right on the front line. They are the first lot of people who the CEO or the CFO is picking up the phone to and saying, please help, we have a major problem. And I think that understanding and appreciating that has never been as high as it is right now. So that's the first one. And that has fantastic implications for how a legal department operates within its organisation, the power or opportunity that they have to introduce new processes and to make sure that they're managing risk in the right way and in the most efficient way that they possibly can. All of those things are an opportunity right now for them to be able to leverage. We had a great story from one of our clients who talked about the fact that he had been trying to get e-signature across the line for the last 2 years. And then the pandemic hit and it was across the line in 2 days. And so, those sorts of necessity is the mother of all invention type stories, I think, have sprinkled right throughout the last 2 years and will continue to do so for the period ahead. I think the second lesson, though, for me is really around the connectedness of the ecosystem. So whether it be in-house legal teams and all of their clients and all of their stakeholders, or their service providers, a la the law firms, the ability to collaborate with all of the ecosystem is really important. And it goes a little bit to what Namit was saying, collaboration tools, communication, anything that facilitates that connectedness is really essential. And that's not just, in your immediate day-to-day, that's, sometimes just a one-off, but the ability to be able to reach people across the globe in an instant to resolve an issue has been coming for some time, but it's never been quite so at the forefront for every single individual as it has been in the last 2 years. So I think that the lesson is really for the entire ecosystem. You are connected, you are in need of collaboration tools, and it's only going to get more and more connected as time goes by.
I think those are great observations, Jody, and I just wanted to pick up on basically all of them, and just to make three quick observations. The first about in-house department within a company being the first on the front line to do damage control when a crisis does hit, does conjure in my mind the image that these in-house department, the in-house lawyers are in a sense sort of the essential workers right, in a company, where we've seen that when a crisis hits, they are the first there to resolve emergencies and to make sure that the company is still able to run in a legal manner. So that is an observation that comes to mind. And along with the increased attention that we've been placing on essential workers across the globe in light of this pandemic, maybe it is a time to shine more light on the in-house counsel role as well. The second is about e-signature across the lines in 2 days rather than 2 years. I think that just confirms the you know joke that is half jokingly made, which is that what are the what's the thing that actually drove change or drove transformation in law firms or the legal industry. So they gave the CEO, COO, and COVID-19, right? And then the answer is always, of course, COVID-19. But like what Namit mentioned earlier, it's actually not COVID-19, but it is the people, right, that are instigated from the impact of COVID-19 that actually make these changes. And the third observation I wanted to make is about how the whole ecosystem is relevant when coming together, especially when speaking to the regulators, right? When the regulators need input and they need to know, okay, how is society going to function in a remade kind of context where everything is new and everything is chaotic, then you need to reach out to all partners, whether it is from the law firms, the in-house departments, or even the people sectors, right? The civil non-profit sectors, to ask them for their views. And I think this is a great chance for to see how COVID-19 has brought the entire industry together in a spirit of collaboration rather than just mutual distrust and a lack of cooperation. So hopefully that will give some hope to the world, or at least the legal industry, being able to build back better from that. So I think
Josh,
that brings us
I'll
nicely
quickly
to the
follow up.
yes.
I'll just quickly follow up on the second point regarding the e-signature. The same thing has happened with virtual, because before COVID-19, it was a conversation. Should we or should we not? And all the argumentation, all the public discourse was based on logic. So it was still an option to do it or not to do it. And COVID's was in changing that into forcing you into a new reality.
Yes, thank you. And I hear you that, it is basically a case where COVID-19 forced people into a new reality where you finally are able to get the buy-in that the jurisdiction needs from the government as well as the judiciary and from the lawyers who are using the system as well. So thank you for the observation. So I think now we come to the third question, right? And we'll reverse the order again. Now back to Jody, you taking the front, taking the first step at this question, which is what are some of the most exciting developments in your region in light of what we've shared so far. So feel free to just cover not just developments in your jurisdiction, but interesting developments that you may have heard from jurisdictions around you as well, or whether there are any needs, upcoming needs and gaps that you think needs to be addressed, that legal technology may be well poised to address. So Jody, over to you.
Thank you, Josh. So I guess the two that I'm going to highlight are not necessarily related to COVID experiences. They're things that I think were coming anyway and have potentially been a little bit accelerated, but not a lot. But the first one, I was going to talk about them in a different order, but on the back of the conversation we've just had, I'll start with the ecosystem connectedness and thinking about the global ecosystem that is the legal industry and the multilingual capabilities that are coming out as we see more and more cross-jurisdictional, international, multinational companies wanting to be able to operate in a way that is very streamlined. I apologise, my doorbell's ringing, so hopefully you can't hear that. In a very streamlined way and being able to do that in your own native language. So for example, our company has just launched a multilingual capability in our software, so we can now speak in 7 different languages, but we're not the only ones who are doing that. And so being able to, as an organisation, have a piece of legal technology that can service all users and not just expect that it's available in English, I think is increasingly interesting in bringing that ecosystem together and allowing for the collaboration of different stakeholders. So I'm quite passionate and excited about the fact that we're going to have the opportunity to really work across different jurisdictions as an ecosystem and connect with each other. The second, though, is probably a little more accessible for everybody, and that is data and analytics. We just see so much conversation around legal data and how legal data can be used by every stakeholder, whether it be a regulator, a government, individual law firms, and what they can analyse with their own internal, what the lawyers are doing, what they're working on, how much they're charging, where the opportunities are. And for our organisation, again, through the in-house lens, looking at, again, what sort of work is being done, how valuable it is, how complex it is, whether it's being resourced by the right organisations, where the risks are in the organisation so that you can get ahead of that curve. I just see such a lot of momentum behind legal data being accessible and normal to every single lawyer, and changing the language so that lawyers don't feel quite so overwhelmed by it, but actually feel like they have it available to them to use in really exciting ways that help to manage their risk and resourcing around their organisation.
Thank you, Jody. I think I agree, and I will be similarly excited as well to see legal technologies with multilingual capabilities being pushed out. I think that will enhance, the fundamental mission of access to justice that legal technology is supposed to be able to enable. And in terms of legal data, I can't help but feel that this whole COVID-19, right, with the focus on the need for having a scientific basis for things that we do, not just in the legal industry, of course, but as a whole in terms of society, and having trusted data that we can base decisions on, has somewhat rubbed off as well as on the legal industry and the regulators in that case, where they say maybe we need to also rely on data to influence our policy making going forward, which may not always be the case, right? Sometimes we tend to see policies being rolled out on the basis of simple anecdotal evidence, but here I think evidence gathering and data-driven policy making will hopefully take the legal industry in a different direction. So with that, Naren, now we turn over to you for your thoughts.
Oh, yes. I think I would like to echo Jody's point about the data, because in Korea that there has been a big advancement from that point as well. Because before recent time, there was privacy of data was more emphasized rather than the open data usage. So for that reason, the data usage was quite restricted. But recently, the government also realized the importance of data, so they established a goal plan to incorporate a data dam for many people, for the public to access the amount of data that the government has. So from that point of view, that would be a good opportunity to transfer that movement into the legal field and promote legal technology. And another exciting developments in Korea would be the incorporation of the Legal Tech Committee under the purview of the Korea Korea Startup Forum. So I think this is in an early stage for the committee, but I think that would be a good opportunity for legal tech firms to coordinate their interests and make a voice to the regulators and begin discussions. And regarding the APEC region, it is very hopeful that there are lots of projects and initiatives in cooperation between the research institution like universities and the industry of this computer science field. So under the cooperation, I expect that there will be lots of attempts to expand the access to justice problems in legal industry and reduce the information asymmetry problems.
Naren, I just wanted to hang on to a point that you mentioned, which is that data dam. Could you explain a bit more what this data dam actually means? And if you can provide some instances of how it could possibly be used for the legal industry.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Data dam refers to the kind of a congregate of data that the government possesses at this moment. So they decided to anonymize those data when necessary and disclose the data when necessary. So I think that is a big advancement of the privacy point of view emphasis of data towards the openness of the data. So the government still is making a plan to to establish specific things about data dam, but at least they express their will to open the data when necessary instead of make them confidential for the purposes for the government.
Okay, right, got it. Thank you for sharing that with all of our listeners as well as our viewers. And I think in terms of the legal tech committee that you mentioned, I think that is certainly a welcome development. And also one development that is welcome, definitely by Alita as well. So just to put a plug for Alita, please feel free to connect the committee with Alita as well, so that we can enhance collaboration with Korea as well. So
Oh,
with
sure.
that happy thought, maybe we'll pass it on to Namit for your thoughts on what are the exciting developments in your region that you think we can all look forward to.
Josh, this is, to be clear, this is not only related to kindness.
Sorry, could you repeat that again? I think
The
you skipped through it.
I'm saying, just to clarify, you don't necessarily mean in COVID-19, right?
Yes, that's right. It could be in relation to any other factors that have propelled, these exciting developments, or it could be even needs and gaps that have been exposed over, these the few recent years that you think could have opportunities that legal tech can address.
Hmm. So apart from what I've already shared with regarding the buy-in from different stakeholders, I suspect that, let's say, if you take the cycle of disruptive innovation, Christensen's process of how disruption happens, it would happen of money is where the industry is more organized. But I feel it's a perspective. I feel that's not what's happening here, because the conversation, let's say, from B to and B2B didn't really meet.
And I think nevertheless, what I did manage to catch from Namit is what he mentioned about open data sets, and also the idea of basically being able to democratize the conversation around legal technology and accepting more stakeholders into the room, right? But I think there is a thought to be had there, which is other than simply having more stakeholders in the room, we commonly understand that regulators, lawyers, as well as maybe the civil sector stakeholders, we all tend to speak in different languages. We tend to refer to different terms in different ways or think in different ways. So we should probably also have a thought in terms of how we can not just break the physical silos that exist between us, which I think many people have already done, but to also break the mindset silo, the mental silo, right, in terms of speaking in different kinds of languages and making different assumptions about society. And that probably will be a harder step, and one that hopefully we can take, because in the long run, it will definitely be important going towards the sustainability of our legal industry. And I think with that, let's go on to the final question, right? Which is, where do you think the region will go from here in terms of legal technology in the next 3 years? And first and foremost, just to make things a little bit more fair, I will call on Nare first this time, and then we will go to Jody, and then hopefully by that time, Namit would have addressed some of the technical issues, and then we'll go back to Namit. So, Nare, without further ado, over to you.
Oh, yeah. I believe 3 years would be enough time for lawyers in Korea and as well as the APEC region and Oceania to accept the idea of legal technology and begin exploring ways how they can adopt the idea in their practices. And one of the reasons that lawyers are afraid of legal technology would be the fact that they are unfamiliar with the concepts and ideas. So therefore, in the meantime, people who are well-versed to legal technology can educate lawyers by promoting the idea of legal technology and showing examples that the legal technology can be used to the mutual benefits of lawyers and clients. And when lawyers realize that they are also part of legal technology movement, I expect the legal tech adoption in Korea as well as the APEC region will be accelerated. And I think this movement can be driven by clients as well. So if clients request lawyers to adopt technologies in their services and make a data-driven approach, then lawyers should inevitably should accept the legal technology. So to that end, we should focus on lowering the bar to the access to justice through legal technology and persuade clients to request lawyers to adopt legal technology for their services. And I think that we focus on these issues for the 3 years, then I believe we can lay the foundation for legal technology in Korea and the APEC region in 3 years.
Thanks so much, Nore. And I think that, that is certainly a bright future that we really hope will be able to work towards. And I do agree with your approach that hopefully we can focus on bringing up the bar below by providing greater access to justice through technology. Because right now it is a term, legal technology and legal innovation is a term that is often bandied around and used by the legal industry itself and, of course, by the government. But the man or woman on the street may not find familiarity with the term of legal technology or legal innovation. And they may not know how it can affect them and it can help them when they come face to face with a legal issue where they need help on. So I think that is a great way to certainly move the conversation forward and move the needle as well for legal technology in our region. So with that thought, maybe I'll go over to you now, Jody.
Thanks, Josh. I think that my thoughts are very similar to Nore's, and I think that there's a thread that goes through all of these questions and the conversation that we've been having. That is that the people and the change resistance or the change acceptance has certainly moved through the pandemic, and so as people are more comfortable with the adoption, and to Namit's point about the democratization of the cost and making things more accessible, and all of the conversations that we've had about the connectivity and collaboration and the importance of the ecosystem, when we put the people, the cost and the interconnectivity together, the end result for me is really around mass adoption. And it's about the sense of legal technology not being something actually that's special, that there might not be, such a need for organisations like Alita or some of the others that are out there to make it a more palatable or acceptable thing to the audience, but actually it just becomes one of the tools or many of the tools that are used every single day by every single lawyer for every single transaction or every single review of a contract that they might be doing. And I think that mass adoption is coming. And I think in the next 3 years, we will see every single person not even really questioning it anymore. It'll be which tool rather than do you use a tool to review your contracts or to manage your workload for your in-house team or whatever it might be. There will just be an acceptance that this is what's required to be a lawyer in the legal ecosystem. So that's one of my thoughts. My only other thought is that right now there are so many legal technologies out there. There's a plethora of tools for people to choose from, and probably too many. And I am not one to want to put a lid on legal technology innovation. I think that it's fantastic, but there will be a consolidation in the industry, I think. Obviously, there's such a fever pitch of need right now, and so the industry is responding to that. The innovators and the entrepreneurs are showing themselves and coming into the market, and that's fantastic. But we will also see a consolidation of that as certain players mop up others, and we'll see some, of course, become the category killer in their space, and others not be able to compete against that. So I can see a consolidation in the next 3 to 5 years will become something that we'll all be talking about for a while.
Wow, thank you so much, Jody. I think those are great thoughts. And the first thought that occurred to my head is you basically completed my job for me. So thank you very much in terms of summing up the whole panel very, very succinctly. But I think the other point that you also made, right, in terms of the basically having too many legal tools out there, the plethora of tools out there, which can sometimes be somewhat dazzling and even confusing, and that there may be some sort of consolidation in the industry going forward, is a very pertinent one. And it is an observation that I've also made, which is that interestingly, there are many legal tech solutions out there which are just point solutions, which means they address a particular pain point in the lawyer's or the user's journey, right? And what may be needed going forward to kind of make legal technology more accessible to the lawyer or the man and woman on the street might be to see a movement from point solutions to horizontal platforms and integration, right? Somewhat like what we've seen for the super apps that are out there today, where they bring transport, food delivery, maybe even finance aspects into a single app. Maybe that might be a potential use case for legal technologies to develop and see how they can streamline everything into one single process that is integrated. So that is a very interesting thought. And Namit, I think if everything is all right, we'll pass the time on to you now. Namit.
Are you able to see me okay, Josh?
Yes, we can see you and hear you clearly.
Okay. So I think I want to be careful about where we go from here, because then what the exercise I'm really indulging in is prediction, and I want to be careful about that. Uh, to be reserved in this aspect, I think one trend that I'm very confident, which is going to continue, is I noticed how Nere and Jody both spoke about lawyers a fair bit, and I think that is what we will see that will start to change. That the gap between the industry and profession has been widening for some time. That the industry is not just about lawyers anymore. Lawyers are one of the actors, right? So that has been changing for quite some time. With marketplaces, for example, coming in, it's become more of a accessible process. Then online solutions which are doing routine basic work, which users are able to do with them. So I think that trend is going to continue, which is if industry and profession are imagined as concentric circles, then that gap is going to continue to widen. And in that particular space, there is a plethora of opportunities of like where innovation can really happen, and which leads me to the second point. And this side, I am not sure if this will be a trend, but it's wishful thinking definitely, which is I hope that we address laws, what I refer to as laws usability problem, that the law itself is not usable by the people it is designed for. And slowly we will start moving towards, whether that happens through for profit companies or whether through non profit organizations or through regulation, that we start to make law as an institution and justice as an institution. First, is this we would, I hope, start to use the terms law and justice together, right? That they are not that divorced. And secondly, I hope that this gets addressed, and legal design or design thinking, I think definitely, even if not very formalized, but that mindset is very important, I believe in making significant change.
I think those are great thoughts, Namit. Thank you so much. And I would really want to pick up on how we can address usability problem. That is certainly an issue that I'm also seeing great development about. For example, in Singapore, we've seen recent moves to basically simplify the use of legal terms and even to change the litigation structure so that the entire case process is simpler for litigants to be able to understand. And hopefully that movement will be reflected, across this entire region as well. So I think that is a good development that hopefully we can look forward to. So I think we've nicely come up to almost the hour And I think I was initially thinking, oh no, are there any particular questions that I may need to ask the panel to basically fill out the time? And then I started to realize that actually, because of the amount of insight that you've all been able to share, I had too many questions. So to spare myself from that pain, I would just ask each of you to share one takeaway that you've taken from each other. It could be from any of the other panelists that you have heard from. So with that, I will start now with Namit and then go to Jody and finally Narek. So Namit, over please.
So to be clear, this is one takeaway from the entire last 2 or 3 years. That's a difficult position you've put me in to
No,
because
no,
because
Namit. I
there are a
mean,
lot.
I was
Yeah.
saying, sorry, I was referring
Mhm.
to a takeaway from the other two panelists that you heard from, any of them.
Hmm. So I've my takeaway was, for instance, when Jody mentioned how the availability of legal technology tools, and I just want to extend that idea to this belief that we have in the developer community um, about how if you will build, they will come. I don't think from a developer's point of view, building is the main problem in the industry. It's the marketing. And that's definitely something that I think will be a challenge because if you see where the developers are coming from, where the legal technology companies are coming from, what's their background? There are a lot of reports which give statistics. They're not coming from, not a, with when you compare it with other industries, it's not a lot of people coming from business or management background as they are maybe coming from legal background with no formal business training. So that's a challenge which I think is going to exist. It exists at least in India. It exists very much, and like how sometimes I've referred to in a couple of conversations with people that while we are tracking how many startups are coming up in India and across the world, we also need to track a graveyard of companies which are not making it after the second or third year. And one of the reasons there is less focus on maybe business development or maybe less skill in that area. So I agree. I do think that consolidation is coming down the road, and I think that altogether the market is heading towards being a more mature market, simply in terms of demand supply.
Thank you so much, Namit. And my apologies once again for cutting you off earlier. But I will not let you off the hook. You mentioned that it was a difficult question to take away one takeaway from the last 2 to 3 years. And I will come back to you on that point after we finish with Jody and Narek. So, Jody, over to you now.
I feel like that comment that you just made, Namit, about tracking the graveyard of legal technology startups is that's a whole webinar in itself. You know, there's the journey of the legal technology company and what that means for the industry and the buyers and the stakeholders. I'd love to explore that further. So for me, actually, the big takeaway for me was what you were talking about, Naray, in terms of the openness of the data and the project there, which I thought was just fantastic. And everybody, certainly in Australia and in the US, where we have a very big market, there's a lot of conversation around legal data and how legal data is being used and how it can really benefit the market. But actually looking at the data sets that are there and available and how they can be used to further education and access to justice and all of those elements, but actually just educating the market, the users, the lawyers themselves. To me, that's actually the key to improving access to justice and some of those really fabulous end goals. But we're not going to get there until there is mass understanding of what legal data is, and we don't get there unless those who hold the data sets are prepared to be open with it. So I was quite excited to hear about that. And I must apologise, it's got quite dark here in Melbourne, Australia. So I did not have a light turned on when I sat down, and I think I'm now in the dark.
No, I think you actually look fine because the computer screen light is reflecting off you. If I remove my curtains now, you would see that it is 2 a.m. in the morning here, so it's all dark outside as well. So with that, Narray, over to you.
Oh, yep. Through this discussion, I once again felt that the gist of the legal technology is to democratize legal industry in order to find the better way to serve the clients, the public. So through legal design thinking, as Namit mentioned, we have to find better ways to provide services to clients with technology. And this discussion also reminded me of a saying that I heard from one of the architect of ODR platform, saying that we have to design the legal platform as comprehensible as the elementary school students. So we have to lower the difficulties and complexities of legal terms and legal structure in order to make the public understand legal structure better with the adoption of technology. So that would be the important thing that we have to do in the upcoming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Nare. So I think it's great. We've heard, basically everyone taking thoughts from everyone else and being inspired. So without further ado, I'll have the moderators take the moderator's prerogative and direct one final question to Namit, right, which is the thought that you were having earlier in terms of one takeaway from basically the last 2 to 3 years, and you will basically be doing my job for me in closing the panel. So please do a good job there. Namit, over to you.
Right, Josh, I think the larger, maybe the most important point for me is that COVID is a crisis. It's a very peculiar crisis. It's happened once in hundreds of years, and there have been pandemics before, but this one has the impact has been quite different. And uh, we cannot depend on the next COVID to accelerate change. So now, let's say when we are all in alert mode and our inertia has kind of gone, it's very important for the industry to use that momentum to be able to build solutions which are not just. It's important to solve problems which are more fundamental, which will come through more of investment, which will come through more of regulation, and these will be infrastructural changes. And in order to capitalize on the movement that we have been able to make, it's important to take exponential leaps. And because the legal industry has a lot of baggage, it's really, in terms of the technological revolution, really one of the last frontiers. So the way for us to move forward is to build that infrastructure, and I think that this is a good chance. And regarding the data point, data is the reason why it's so important. Data and like how she mentioned, structured thinking, even in different stakeholders, structured thinking and data, and then insight development. Once we adopt that as a culture, I believe that's when we are going to see exponential growth.
Well, Namit, I must say that I had full confidence that you will be able to carry out the task that I delegated to you. And I think you've repaid that with full faith, right? You've repaid my faith in that because I think that was a great way to sum up this panel. Just a few other points that I do want to share as well, based on all the great observations that you had, is that I think there is some opportunity, right, for professionalization of the sector. And that goes to the point that you made, Namit, about, right, the legal, or rather the graveyard of legal tech companies, because I think professionalizing the sector would add in that ability to understand the mistakes that we've made, understand the missteps along the way, and to pull together in one body of knowledge that anybody that's interested in the legal technology sector may be able to then say that, okay, let me take this extra step forward and to build on for the next generation. The second thing I want to mention about is, you all spoke about the need for greater understanding in terms of legal technology, and therein may lie an opportunity for the rethinking of legal education, right? To bring in or to reform legal education such that technology becomes an integral part of legal knowledge and legal education and legal training, rather than just a separate silo, which is normally how it is taught now in many different law schools. And perhaps the need for constant reskilling and re-education as well as lawyers enter into the workforce. So I think those are some of the points that I just wanted to add to the great conversation that we've had. But I must emphasize once again that this has been a great, sharing session. We've heard from views from basically across the entire region, and all thanks to you panelists, right, for bringing this diversity and depth of thought to this conversation. One final point I do want to make is that this has been an incredibly tough 2 years for many people out there, not just in the legal industry. And I do want to say that I'm very sure I speak for everyone when I say that the legal innovation and legal technology sector stands in solidarity with everyone in trying to solve the problems that the world is currently facing. So I think with that final thought, I want to thank once again Jody, Naray, and Namit for this very insightful conversation that we've had. I personally enjoyed it very much, and I hope all of you enjoyed it as well. And to all listeners and all viewers that have been tuning in, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time. You've been watching GLTH Day. And my name is Josh. I've been moderator for the session. It's been a great pleasure, and I am signing off. Thank you all.